A system of morals that allows for the breeding, torturing, and eating of factory-farmed animals for gustatory pleasure can be equated to a system of morals in which, similarly, puppies are tortured, killed, and eaten for the sake of enjoying a chocolate delicacy. Alistair Norcross makes this claim through his story of Fred, a character who loses his sensation for chocolate. Fred could attain the same pleasure he once did with the indulgence of chocolate by torturing and killing puppies. Norcross argues that the factory farms treat their animals just as poorly as Fred did the puppies. He says that each person who consumes factory-farmed meat is equally as culpable for the ill-treated animals as Fred was. Today, I will be discussing Norcross's views on the ethics of animal consumption. My intent is to inform listeners of his argument against factory farming and his defenses in response to consumers of factory-farmed meat. Norcross introduces his argument with a thought experiment. His thought experiment involves Fred, a fictional character who values the gustatory pleasure he receives from consuming chocolate. Fred was involved in a car accident in which he suffered some head trauma. Because of the accident, he damaged his Godiva gland, which secretes cocamone, the hormone that controls the human experience of chocolate. Fred met with a gustatory neurologist to discuss the problem and was informed that puppies who do not regularly produce cocamone could be induced to do so with a certain amount of severe stress and suffering inflicted upon them. With this knowledge, Fred collected, tortured, and killed 26 puppies to regain his ability to enjoy chocolate. One of the first claims one may make in response to Norcross's argument is that Fred tortured the puppies himself. When the average person purchases factory-farmed meats at the grocery store or at a restaurant, they played no part in the torturing and killing of these animals, and are therefore not liable for the moral consequences following these actions. Norcross's response to this argument is this: what if Fred was squeamish and had paid someone else to torture and kill the puppies? Would that have made these actions morally permissible? Norcross continues to present possible arguments for the consumption of factory-farmed meats and his defenses to them. According to Norcross, factory farming animals is wrong from all angles. He claims that factory-farmed animals lived cramped, stress-filled lives and unanesthetized mutilations. By purchasing and consuming the animals following the releasement of factory farms, we are supporting the industry and are therefore supporting the ill treatment of the animals as well. According to Paul Solotaroff, a writer for Rolling Stone, an estimated 9 billion broiler chickens, 113 million pigs, 33 million cows, and 250 million turkeys are raised in factory farms each year. As factory farming conditions are acknowledged and publicized, lawmakers and lobbyists are creating laws referred to as ag-gag bills, which make it illegal to take a farm job undercover, apply for a farm job without disclosing a background as a journalist or animal rights activist, or to hold evidence of animal abuse past 24 to 48 hours before turning it over to authorities. This makes it extremely difficult for word of animal brutality. One of the first counter-arguments for the consumption of factory-farmed meats is that many are unaware of the brutality that animals endure in the factory farming industry. These people are not indulging in factory-farmed meats with any intended malice. While this may be true, Norcross's counter-argument to this is now you know, so respond accordingly. Now that his readers are informed of the atrocities that take place at factory farms, he claims they can no longer make the innocence for ignorance claim. Norcross does not go into much detail with this argument, as there are far more complex arguments to defend. For example, there is an argument opposing Norcross's claim against eating factory-farmed meat regarding human ethical status. The argument goes as follows. Because humans have a higher ethical status than animals, the interests of humans hold a higher weight than the interests of animals. Similarly, some argue that because of this difference in moral status, that the suffering of humans is worth more than the suffering of animals. So, yes, humans and animals have different ethical statuses. What does this mean in relation to how we treat animals? This argument is extended to what Norcross calls the issue of marginal cases. There is a claim that what gives humans their superior moral status to animals is their higher rationality. While the average human has a higher level of rationality than an animal, not all humans share the same level of cognitive or physical function. For example, babies, the mentally handicapped, the senile, or irreversibly comatose. Where do humans lie on the spectrum? Because they are not of superior moral status, are they then at the same level as animals? Could then these humans be treated in the same way factory farmed animals are treated? Matthew Boyle, a former student at the University of Harvard, writes that although we claim to be rational, we must also recognize that the human mind is a species of animal mind that has arisen through the same sorts of evolutionary processes that also produce the minds we call non-rational. Boyle goes on to say that the more we examine the similarities between humans and animals, the more we seem compelled to regard the specialness of minds as merely a matter of degree, not a difference in kind. Norcross agrees with lawyer and philosopher Jeremy Bentham, who says the question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Even if animals cannot reason, talk, or share the same level of cognitive function as humans, they should still be treated with a certain level of consideration for their well-being. In conclusion, Norcross argues that the factory farming industry is corrupt and that society should stop purchasing and consuming factory farmed meats. He tells the story of Fred, a man willing to torture and kill puppies for gustatory pleasure, and equates his character to the average carnivorous person. Norcross addresses different excuses, as he may say, to why indulging in such meats may be morally permissible, and challenges each of these with counter-arguments. We do not need meat to survive, just as Fred did not need chocolate. Therefore, Norcross urges us not to engage in or support factory farming.